Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Today I'm going to show you how to make a very simple quilt using 5-inch charm squares. Matt cut these out of a new collection called Wild and Free because he thought 5-inch squares would just look really cute with the patterns that came in this collection. So we're going to make a very simple quilt and it's not going to take very long. So let's get started. I'm going to make 2 baby quilts. There's enough squares here to make one from each package. There's 54 squares in here. There's 9 different prints, 6 fabrics of each one. So I'm going to lay these in a circle because that helps me see what's going to be next to what when I lay out the whole quilt. I have all of the fabrics laid out here, and I try to put fabrics that will look nice together next to each other because this is going to be next to this in the quilt. This is going to be next to this. So I'm trying to get kind of a dark light alternation and then have fabrics that look good next to each other. So I'm going to do diagonal lines of the print. So I'm going to start with this one and I'm going to make a diagonal line all the way across the quilt. So this one is going to be going all the way down like this. Once I get them laid out, I will put them right side up so that they're not sideways. So I'm going to have 6 rows. Now I'm going to take the next fabric, I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to keep working my way around to the circle. And at some point, the quilt's going to be long enough and then the rest of the fabrics will go up in the far corner. But I'm going to lay the whole quilt out on the table here. And then I can stand back and look and see if it feels balanced. I have all of the patches for the whole quilt laid out here. Now what I'm going to do is make sure they're all facing the way I want. And I might want this bear closer to the middle. And I might move some of the TPs if I don't like the color change. Say I want, so we've got a kind of a blue here, maybe too much blue here. I might switch some around and put this one in the middle and this one there. The idea is to get it looking balanced. If you lay the whole quilt out and you don't like the color change, or you don't like the fabric you have going right down the middle, you can switch your rows around. But this looks pretty good, so I'm going to show you how to stack up the rows so we can keep them in order while we sew. I'm going to stack these up one on top of another till I have the whole row stacked up. And I'm probably going to have to go around the other side of the table. And then I'm going to put a pin in there. Now for the next rows, you can pick up 2 at a time if you want. Just always keep the bottom one on the top all the way up. I'm going to put a big pin through all the layers here so that they will stay in order and they will stay turned the right direction, because you'll notice a lot of these patterns have a one-way design. I don't want them to get turned sideways. I want all the stripes going the same way. So I'm going to pin all the rows, and if you want, you can also even mark these row 1, row 2, row 3, and that just helps make sure that you don't get the rows mixed up. We're going to take the first 2 rows and we're going to sew them together. So let's take them to the machine. And I'm going to flip them upside down because these are the squares that are at the very bottom of the quilt. So we're going to start with the top square. So I'm going to take the pins out. We're going to take the first 2 pieces. So those are the first 2 squares of the quilt. And we are going to sew these together. And we're going to leave them on the machine. Now we're going to take the next 2 squares. So I'm going to flip them up every time to make sure I don't have anything turned sideways. Put them right sides together and keep sewing. These are the bottom pieces in the first 2 rows. So I'm going to sew these on. I'm not going to trim any of the rows apart. I'm just going to pull this down. So these are the top pieces. Now I'm going to take row number 3, take that pin out, flip the whole thing upside down, and this is the square that's going to go here. The next square, gonna go right here. And you can flip it over to make sure you don't have it turned sideways, but they're actually in exactly the order we need to put them on to finish the whole quilt. So I'm going to finish row 3, then I'm going to do the same thing with row 4, 5, and 6. Now we can sew the rows together. So the rows are clinging together by these threads that are between, and it makes it real easy to keep everything in order, and you don't have to worry about getting a row on upside down. So before I sew this row to this row, I'm going to take the first row and just finger press a little all the seams going up, and then on the second row I'm going to finger press all these seams going down. So it only takes a minute to finger press all of those, but it makes sewing the rows together real easy. So put these rows right sides together and match up the very top there. And every intersection you come to, the seams are already going opposite directions, and it makes it really easy to line those up. You can feel with your fingers if they are matching. You can feel right here because the back seam allowance is down and this seam allowance is up. So I'm going to sew the whole seam, then I'm going to do the same thing with every other row. I'm going to alternate the direction that I'm finger pressing and sew all the rows together. I have the patchwork pieces all stitched together, and you could just be done right now. This is a pretty small quilt, but for a newborn, it's a really cute size. But I'm going to add a small border and a larger border and then some binding. So we have those fabrics here in the store, so we're going to go over to that section and pick them out. I need to pick a small inner border and a larger outer border. And I really want this for the outer border. Those little bears, camping bears, are just way too cute. So for a little contrast, that would be nice. That'd be nice and bright and light. I think I actually want to go with a blue print. So I think I'm going to put this blue one on first, just a small stopping border, and then we'll come to a bigger border out of this. I have the borders all cut out and they look really nice with the patchwork. So I'm going to do a 2.5 inch of the blue and a 6 inch of this coral. And I'm going to come back with this for the binding also. And the numbers are really easy. I just needed 4 pieces for the inner border and 5 pieces for the binding. So that took about a yard. And then I need a yard for the outer border, the 6 inch border. So the patchwork, before we put any borders, it's 27 by 36. After we add those borders, it's going to be 42 by 51. So that's a great crib size quilt. We just need 2 yards for the backing then, and we will be all done. The quilt finished up really quickly. Easy to quilt, easy to sew, a very fast project when you need a baby quilt for a gift in a hurry. We all have those times when the baby shower is coming up and you haven't finished a quilt yet. This is just a great option. And the fabrics really look really cute, just in squares. I've quilted this with pine trees and stars on the back side because it has a Forest Friends theme. And this is actually a batik on the back here, but it just has a little bit of color change and it looks really sweet on the back. So again, a yard for here, a yard for here, and it's just a great crib size. I also stitched together the blue combination, so it's right here. Now for this one, I used the dot on the back. The dots make really good baby quilts. Really fun and fast. I hope you enjoyed watching our tutorial today on how to make a baby quilt with charm squares. They're really fun and fast. Happy quilting!